Welcome. It is the Jake Nulph Show, live from the Edinboro Hotel. However, you may be joining us. Thank you for making us part of your evening. The 1-0 Fighting Scots. Nice win to start the season. Long bus ride, but we'll get into that. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out here at the Edinboro Hotel, and, of course, Pat for joining us. And, of course, programming note starting next or this week, I should say, all Edinboro games will be broadcast live on WMBL Cool 101.7 with yours truly doing the play-by-play. We got a trip to Shepherd, number 5 in America, awaits, but again, we will get to that as well. Big win. You can only go 1-0 at a time, right? So you got to start stacking blocks. Before we even get into the weeds, it's not the perfect scenario. The 9.5-hour bus ride, and you got to. It's a little bit better this week. Still the same deal, but is there any positive you can take from having a long road trip and then another long? I mean, maybe does that help you in some nonsensical way? The preparation for that long trip last week. In the way this week's gone so far.
Sure. No, I mean, the thing is, I actually like playing on the road. I played in the Northeast Conference and coached in the Northeast Conference for a long time, so I'm used to those long bus trips. I think our guys like them too. We're a close group. Anytime we can close ranks, limit distractions, everybody load up and go somewhere and only focus on football, that's a positive thing for our football team. When you play at home, unfortunately, there's a lot of distractions. There's the academic, the requirements that our guys taking classes, and then you have family and friends and students, and I just don't like all of the distractions at home. I like us getting able to get on a bus and go and hit the road, because at that point it's us, and all we're focused on is football.
All right, so 10-7 winners last week. Probably statistically speaking, nothing to write home about. But again, a win is a win. How much did you sort of mentally prepare yourself? Because that's, I think, what a lot of people don't understand is that you've got your game plan that's A, and then you got B, you got C, you got D, because there's a lot of moving parts. And I thought, you guys were shaky at best, right, to start, and then you get the big touchdown play that sort of righted this shift. But it felt like it was a week one game, but it also sort of had that knock them down, drag it out. Like, it didn't matter if this was in November, it probably wasn't going to get to 35-31.
Yeah. I think that's a good observation. We as coaches, we always say take your game plan. It's good for the first 5 minutes, and then you've got to adjust. And that was really the case. Opening ball game, they don't know us, we don't know them. I felt like the start was everything that we wanted it to be. We take the opening kickoff 54 yards down into their territory, but we shot ourselves in the foot, and that was kind of the theme offensively of the first half. We had a false start penalty. We dropped the pass. And then we're forced to punt. And then defensively, we kind of had an idea what they were going to do, but with new personnel, we weren't quite sure what the quarterback run game was going to look like. Once we realized that was some of the things that they were able to do, we made some adjustments. We were able to hold them to a long field goal, and they missed that. And, after we settled in a little bit, you pointed out the big touchdown pass from Isaac Bernard to Thad Stanfield. That was a great play. We had some momentum going, but unfortunately we couldn't get out of our own way. Those pre-snap penalties in the first half really hindered us from our offensive momentum. And then defensively, I felt like we made a lot of negative plays. We forced them into a lot of tackles for losses and some situations where we limited their tailback. And unfortunately, we just had a hiccup before the first half. Hindsight always 20/20. I burned some timeouts there. We had them in a 2nd and 12. I was trying to get our offensive possession back. It ended up going against our favor. They made some plays, and they ended up putting 7 on the board before the half. And then we started the second half, held them. We popped the long punt return. Amani Bailey had a really nice punt return. And then we got the field goal from Reed Martin, went up 10-7, and you never know which game in the, what play in the game is going to be the winner, and that ended up being the winner for us.
All right, play a little game here to sort of recap. Glass half full, glass half empty.
Okay.
Glass half full, you held them to 250 yards. Glass half empty, you only had 275. Probably not to get into too much to the second part, but, 250 yards total offense is a pretty good defensive effort. 275 yards total offense isn't a whole lot better.
Right.
How do you fix that? What did you see now that you've got a chance to digest the film? Was it something they did, something you did, some schematic? Have you now that you're regurgitated the film enough? What's the takeaway there?
Well, I think the thing is, from an offensive standpoint, clearly in the first half where we had just a lot of first game rhythm, pre-snap penalties. There was some execution, some communication issues. I thought we cleaned some stuff up in the second half. We had some opportunities. We just didn't make the plays that we wanted. The biggest credit that I could give that our offense was, we got the ball back with 6 minutes and 42 seconds left and never gave it back. And to us, style points, to use the Mike Tomlin quote, we're not into style points. If we win a game 10-7 in a 250-yard to 275-yard game, we'll play that. If it's got to go the other route where it's 59-48, we can get into that type of football game too. We just want the end result, and that's the win. If you talk to every guy on our football team, we know it wasn't pretty. We know that we didn't execute up to our expectations, but the end result is what we wanted, and we're going to continue to build and work from there.
Yeah, literally no such thing as moral victories here.
No.
So a win is a win. There's no doubt about that. I did want to ask you something because I remember when I was watching the game in real time, it felt like I could almost feel Isaac thinking. When he wasn't thinking, things were better. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Isaac Bernard is his worst critic. He's very hard on himself. And the thing is, I think the process was spinning there a little bit. But there was a third down on that last drive where he shook off a sack, got out, prolonged the play, threw a strike to Nico Mervos and had a big play for a big conversion on a third down. And then later that drive, we got another 3rd and 6. He threw a nice ball to Anthony Williams, and then Anthony did the rest, moved the sticks. So I know there's a lot of plays that he probably wants back, but when he had to, he made the plays for us to win.
Yeah, the next one is you held them to 4 of 14. Yeah. You guys were only 6 of 15 on third down. And up until the fourth quarter, were atrocious on third. What changed? Because you mentioned the first one. Well, the second one was great. If you don't convert the first one, you don't even get to the third one, and you might not win the game.
Absolutely. I think if you look at that, a lot of that's probably down in distance. When you get into a lot of third and longs in any football game, probabilities go way down as far as the conversion rate. The defense has the upper hand. I thought in the second half we were in a lot more third and manageable situations. The 3rd and 6 to Anthony Williams. I think the play to Nico was like around 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5. Yeah. So when you get in the third and medium and you can stay ahead of the sticks, that certainly helps your cause. We never want to be in any kind of third and long situation, no matter who we're playing against.
Yeah, obviously playing behind the sticks is leads to high. Well, you already don't have any hair, so high blood pressure, I guess.
Yeah, always.
And again, down the stretch, the criticism is the criticism, but when you needed to make a play to ultimately win the game, you did. And not to make this all rosy and colorful, but as a coach, that has to really excite you. Even though all plays are equal, every play is equal. You can score just as many points in every play. It had to be satisfying for week one, camp getting over, all the frustrations. When it really truly mattered. You guys came out on top.
Yeah. And that's a credit to the kids and our coaching staff and the program because, looking at, last season to this season, our guys, we left some plays out there. Don't get me wrong. We dropped some passes, we missed some assignments, et cetera. But when it came down to it in the fourth quarter, when it got, crucial moments of the football game, our guys stepped up. The physicality that we played with, was clearly evident on defense. And then on offensively, that last drive that almost went 7 minutes, I felt like we imposed our will. And that's a credit to them. That's part of our process, I think, year 2 into the program here. Really excited to see our guys finish. Because we had mentioned last week, 21, we were in 4 one-possession football games where we didn't come away on the other end of that. We actually finished the game this time, and we got a really tough, hard-fought road victory week 1. We knew it wasn't going to be easy, and it showed our character and our grit.
Jumping to the other side of the ball, the old, you talk to the coach speak, the old cliche, early on, the defense is always ahead of the offense. Statistically speaking, the defense was unbelievable. Clay Cunningham, Clay was spectacular, but in general, the tackle for loss was unbelievable. Is there any truth to that in your case? Because I know you got a lot of new faces, but there's new faces on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think that, from just see ball, get ball, that's fly around, make plays. I mean, that's our mantra on defense. We want to be fast. We want to be physical. We want to continue to come after you. Clay Cunningham certainly played a tremendous football game on Saturday. I thought we had some bright spots in other places. Ty Thornton was in the backfield quite frequently. C.J. Waldier had a couple splash plays. I know Malcolm Johnson did some really good things on the second level, and so did Wilfredo Diaz. Those guys, we just played a tough football game. Anytime you get an All-American running back, you get a 6'3", 260-pound transfer quarterback that you know is going to be involved in the run game, or at least you anticipate. We had the old mantra, hey, we're going to strap it up. We're going to have to put our lunch pail and go to work and fly around and stop the run and make them one-dimensional. And it takes 11 guys to do that. We were certainly able to accomplish that on Saturday. And from an offensive standpoint, you take a look at what our identity is. We want to run the football with a regular. We want to be a physical offense. They were prepared for that. I felt like they did a really good job of matching our physicality. And then when the opportunity presented itself to make plays on the perimeter, we ended up the throw to Thad in the second. Was that the second quarter?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a great route by him. We got the coverage that we thought we were going to get there, and Isaac threw him open. And then the rest of that was just Thad being Thad, run after the catch. And, there was one series in the second half where I felt like offensively we established our physical presence. We might have went like 6 consecutive run plays, moving the ball 6 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 8 yards, started to wear them out to the point where they had to burn a timeout. We just need to do things on a more consistent basis. And, that's been the message all week. As soon as we watch the tape in the corrections period, it's the consistency of our game now.
Maybe after that defensive performance, this isn't quite yet the right time to ask you this question, because we talked about this at length, and I've talked about this with Coach Papley, both on air, off the air, on the record, off the record. You had to replace so many guys up front. Pap's line would be, I think, I don't know yet, yeah. I think, now with one game under your belt, that group held their own.
Yeah. They did a really good job, and yeah, we've got some new faces, and it's tough to replace those guys that you mentioned. The Bishop Simmons, the Tariq Smiths, the Darian Smiths. But first game, we were really happy with the result, but we're not satisfied. The Malachi Charlestons, the Ty Thorntons, the CJs, those guys know we've got to get much better here for week 2, and the thing that I can say about that group and our football team in general is, we work extremely hard, not just on the field but off the field. The weight room is such a huge part of our program now. A lot of those guys put the time into the weight room. They conditioned all summer, and then, that showed. It's definitely in week 1.
Before we get any deeper here, I want to, coaches, teams are always very goal-oriented. And, whether you have it written down or not, or the team is aware of it or not, somewhere in there's a list of things that you wanted to accomplish. Of the 5, maybe there's more, maybe there's less, but on that list, how many boxes do you think you checked on Saturday?
The most important one, being 1-0. That's to be quite honest with you. That's, like I said, we're not an ego-driven group. We can play the game however you want to play it. If you want to get into that kind of defensive struggle, clock control, and we can play that. You want to get into a shootout? I think we got the opportunity to play that way too. I mean, we just want to win. And I told our guys this, and, there's a couple of them here. When we watched that tape on Monday as a football team, yes, there was some good, there was some bad, and there was some ugly, but don't lose sight in the fact that we're sitting here a 1-0 football team. We're never a finished product. Everybody wants to be perfect, but we went on a road, played an unfamiliar opponent with a lot of new faces, gutted out a win, and that's the most important thing.
Isaac, you talked about made some big conversions. Did you do something that was, that kind of slowed it down for him? Did he kind of get his wits about him? Because, again, as we alluded to, he made the plays with his arms and legs, quite frankly, that ultimately got you in the position to win. But, obviously in the beginning, a little shaky, not necessarily his fault per se, but things were shaky. Then they got better. What actually changed? Did you call things differently?
Well, no, I don't think Coach DeMeo called anything offensively differently. I think that first game jitters, couple new looks that we weren't used to, having to make some adjustments on the sidelines to those schematic things, and just him calming down and understanding. I think sometimes Isaac, he's very hard on himself. So, I knew he threw the interception early there in the second quarter, and just trying to get him out of that and understanding the rhythm of the game. The thing that we talk about all the time is understand situations. And that was a 1st and 10 play that I know he wanted that throwback, but he tried to force something that wasn't there, and credit to Franklin Pierce, they executed the play. And, once Isaac got past all of that, and the game settled down for him, I think is when you really started to see him make some throws.
Now, the opponent being new, does that matter? I mean, obviously, there's schematically things change all the time,
Every time.
And from week to week, quarter to quarter. But is that something was that a factor? Good, bad, indifferent. But does that matter to you? Does that matter to the game plan? Does that matter to how the game is played? Because you don't have a mental point of although being new to the league, you don't necessarily have a point of reference to begin with either, because you don't have the reps here. This is what I think year 15 for me. You sort of get a feel for who a program is. You look at Mahalik has hired Lutz, and it's still the same lineage. But do you find that as a advantage, disadvantage? Because literally, I don't usually have to Google the opponent, and I did.
No, that's a good question. I mean, whether it was Franklin Pierce or anybody else, you play the opening ball game, everybody's new because you don't have any pre-existing film on personnel. Now, with Franklin Pierce, we knew the head football coach was the offensive coordinator. He was the play caller. So we had some familiarity from a scheme standpoint. But you're not quite sure until you get into the game, And the same thing defensively. They had the same coordinator, but they throw some wrinkles. They have some new personnel. They're playing to their strengths. And that's where you would ask the first question about how much is game plan and then how much do you make adjustments and throw it out the window. I mean, that's every week because – that's what good coaches do. They make adjustments. They give you different looks. They build on things that they already have in their game plans, and they make you do your job and make adjustments. So, yes and no. I mean, it has something to do with it, but not really. I mean, look, we'll line up. We're going to go play whoever's on the schedule, and we'll be prepared, and we'll get ready to play.
All right, let's take a quick time out. This is the Jake Nulph Show. We're hanging out here at the Edinboro Hotel. We're each and every week, usually on a Monday, but now because of the holiday weekend here on a Tuesday. But we will bring in Reed Martin, who is the special teams player of the week, but also a guy that makes tackles. He's like what would be the defensive version of punt, pass, and kick? I don't know what that would be, but that's who Reed is.
He's our Swiss Army knife. Reed does everything for us.
Yeah, So we're going to talk to Reed, then we'll get back into next week's opponent, Shepherd, number 5 team in America. But win is a win, 10-7. More on the Jake Nulph Show when we come back. All right, welcome back as we are filming the Jake Nulph Show here at the Edinboro Hotel. Fighting Scots 1-0. A win is a win. And, of course, I think the interesting thing is we bring in Reed Martin, who, by the way, congratulations. You were PSAC West Special Teams Player of the Week. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, very good. That's why you're here, actually. So you are, before we get into, I got to ask, when you got recruited, were you recruited as a corner, a punter, a place kicker, a kicker? Like, how did that go? And did you, because, I mean, let's be honest, we know there's kind of a stigma about kickers. They're always off on their own doing their, but did you say, I'll come kick, and as long as you let me try to play? Like, how did that exactly work that you get to do all those things at the collegiate level?
Well, I was actually recruited as an athlete, so I could play anywhere pretty much. And I actually came in as a wide receiver, and then I came in as a punter. Around the first week or so, I got moved to defensive back, and I've just been playing there ever since. Last year, I played safety, and now I'm playing corner here. And then I did punting last year, and as of right now, I'm doing punting, kickoffs, and field goals right now.
You know, Coach Nulph called you the Swiss Army knife, excuse me. Now in recruiting, they've got just athlete. Maybe your position should just be football player. Would you like that?
Yeah, I would. In high school, I actually never came off the field. I would play wide receiver, then kick the extra point, then kick the kickoff, then go play corner. And then if we stopped them, then I'd be the punt returner and then go right back on offense. I never had a water break or anything like that.
So I know that Coach Nulph gets annoyed because I have a question that I ask each and every week, but it's not limited. It's not it's his question. It's literally a question that I ask to every coach, whether it's high school or college, and we'll get to that eventually. But I have a question that as a lot of people may or may not know, prior to this, I did Clarion University football for 13 years, and each and every week, and like we're going to do here as well, we have the player spotlight. So I always ask the players, because I think by and large, regardless of where you live or what your experience is, people have really no inclination as to just how good you have to be to play at this level. And I know people always sort of roll their eyes about a team's record or that or the other thing. And I always try to explain to people, you realize that like 90% of that roster was the best player on their high school team. So I will ask you this question. You're a youngster, but you got to play last year. What was it like, and how much more difficult was it actually playing at this level than you thought it was going to be?
It's actually a lot different than high school, especially with all the time put into it. In high school, you just go to practice for an hour and a half, 2 hours after school, go home, and that's it. Here you got lifting, practice, film, and like bonding. Like we're always together, making sure we're ready for the season and for the games. And school is definitely a big part of it too. You got to know how to manage your time and stuff like that. But also like the players, like you said, each player was probably the best player in their high school. So it's like a high school all-star team on every single team. And I just love it. I love the competitiveness, and like everyone's like top notch.
I always marvel at, when you see guys, and unfortunately you're going to see one this week as well. You're like, how is that guy here? He is way better than this level. I think that, and I say this lovingly because, the PSAC, I'm a PSAC guy forever. You really do. It's a league of guys that, fall through the cracks, and you see it, and you'll see it as your career goes on. You're going to see it Saturday with Badgett, but I've seen it for years where there are guys that you're like somebody should have lost their job for not recruiting that kid to a higher level. They're just literally late bloomers. And I think that you look at this, and as you continue to play, this is a league that every team has a bunch of guys, and you're like, he has no business playing at this level. He is way better than here. But that's just the lay of the land. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I feel like some guys are definitely better than where they end up. But also I think it's because they have something to prove. Like they didn't get D1 or stuff like that, and they work harder to be better. And like every single day they work harder, lift harder, do more drills, do more in the off season to make sure they're ready and be prepared for the season. I just think with the hard work and that, they prove themselves and they prove that they should be D1 even though they're not. Like the PSAC is a great league, and every single player I feel like could be somewhere else.
Yeah, certainly it is rather remarkable. I think again the people that don't embrace it, I don't know why but to each their own, I suppose. It is a really, really high level of football. Obviously you had a great week last week. Not too many guys average 40 yards per punt. And would you have 5 tackles and 2 pass breakups? You're like Shohei Ohtani out there.
Yeah, I couldn't do it all without my snapper, Nico Mervos. His snaps are always perfect. And then my gunners, C.J. Waldeer is always the first one down there. Gage Galuska, Toby, all of them. They get the ball down. They make them fair catch the ball. And without them, I couldn't do any of that.
Now, do they sort of look at you differently? Because, it's weird. They always have the linemen are always dapping one another up post-game. But, do other punters and kickers come up to you you're not really one of us? Do they look at you like you're not? I don't care how well you do it. You're not really a punter or kicker. You tackle people, too.
Yeah, every time a kicker comes up to me, they're like, "What are you doing with football cleats on?" I'm like, "I play on the field also." And they're like, "Wow, I could just imagine what you do in soccer cleats." I never actually kicked in soccer cleats. I've always kicked in football cleats my whole life because I've been on the field. But that's something they always said to me just every time, because they're always usually soccer players that come in and kick for a football team. And I've just never done it.
All right, Reed. The other, I like to ask this because everybody has an interesting path and a story. You're from Plum. I guess this is a pretty open-ended question. Why did you pick Edinboro, and what's your plan? After you're done, I'd imagine you're probably going to move somewhere where it doesn't snow.
I picked Edinboro because of the coaches, and we all have something to prove here. Before I came here, we might not have been the best team, 3-8 and stuff like that. But I know when I came here and the coaches and how they talked to me and what their plans were, that this was the place that I needed to go.
You mentioned, the rough year. There's a lot of tradition. Really for the most part, everybody has had a window where they were the team to beat, and especially in the West. Not so much in the East. But believe it or not, there was once upon a time where Lock Haven and Millersville were the teams to beat. But everybody has had their window where they were the team that was being chased. Now, you guys are on a 4-game win streak. You've beaten IUP. In recent years, IUP, Slippery Rock are the bar. How close are you? And the follow-up to that would be, what would need to happen at the end of this year for everyone else to believe that you've taken that step further? You're very young on both sides of the ball, and we have already talked about the defensive line, but I'm not certain. I always say it's a dude problem. Either you don't have any dudes, and then you got a dude problem. I don't think that's the case. So how close are you, and what would be the step that you think you guys could take as a group that would put everyone else on notice?
Like you said, we're still a young team, and we have a lot to prove. We're on a 4-game win streak, but we got to put that behind us and keep moving forward. Every week's a new week, and every week we have something to prove. We have a big game this week, and if we win this game, I think that would really put us on the map.
I'm going to write that down. Reed said they beat number 5 on the road, and people are going to put them on the map. I think that's a safe bet, Reed. Congratulations. I appreciate you taking some time to join us here on the Jake Nulph Show. Best of luck. I appreciate your time. Back with more right after this. All right, welcome back to the Jake Nulph Show. Get you ready for number 5, Shepherd. Another road trip. Jake, by the way, I thought Reed did a good job.
Yeah, he was great. Some dry sarcasm there, showed his personality a little bit. You actually got him to talk more than I have in his 2 seasons here and recruiting him. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. I bring the best out in everyone, even you sometimes.
That's true.
All right. Okay, so I got to ask this because and I don't know if there's a right way, but, everybody's got, their way. my dad was a football coach, and his thing was, I'd rather give up 6 in front of me than 6 behind me. The 6 yards in front, that's their cliche. Of course, the great Hoosiers movie when they go in and Gene Hackman's got the measuring tape and says, oh, their rims are 10 foot 2, Or do you embrace that they're the team to beat in Super Region 1. They're a team that, has legitimate national championship aspirations. They have a guy that's probably getting drafted in the NFL. They have a guy that, let's be honest, I don't know, I think we're allowed to discuss the rumor mill, was supposedly going to be West Virginia's starting quarterback until some dude named JT Daniels shows up. I mean, the hype is real. But in Shepherd's case, Jake, that's not hype. That's earned. Like, they were doing what they're doing when Slippery Rock and IUP and Cal are sort of trading back and forth as to who the lead dog in the PSAC is. And you can make the argument, well, if they were in the PSAC back then, they would have been trading back and forth. But they weren't. And they were the bar. They are the bar in Super Region 1. So my question to you is it they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do, or are you hyping it that this is the game that puts you on the map? This is the game. And let's be honest. I mean, beating IUP last year was a great win for you and your program. You and I both know if you go to Shepherd and win on the road, well, that's a whole different tax bracket. So what's your approach? Have you decided what your approach is yet?
Yeah, that's a great question, and those are all very valid points. The thing is, and I told our football team this yesterday, is we have an opportunity to play the number 1 team in Super Region 1. They're number 5 in the country. They are established. They have done everything. They're a national championship contender. We as a program, let's see where we're at. If they're the measuring stick, we get an opportunity to go out and compete with the number 1 team in this region. We're excited about it. We're not going to shy away from it. We're the only team this week that has this opportunity. So let's embrace it. We're going to go down there, and we're going to play for 60 minutes of football. And, you had mentioned Tyson. They got an offensive tackle that I think may have a chance of playing on Sundays as well. This is a very deep, a very talented football team. Coach McCook has done a great job. This is an opponent that I saw firsthand in the 2019 first-round NCAA playoffs when I was at IUP. And I've seen Tyson in action. These guys are real. From our standpoint, they're the measuring stick. We're going to go out, we're going to let it rip, and we're going to go out and play a football game, and let's see how we stack up.
Now, you bring up Super Region 1.
Yeah.
But the cool thing, until it works against you in the PSAC championship game, the way it's currently constructed, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, a loss is a loss. But the silver lining is that a loss doesn't end your season. You win the West, you go get another crack at them. Do you go that far down, or is it all 1 week at a time? This week the opponent. Because, again, this is an opportunity to give a young football team, even in a loss, a boatload of confidence into what I think is going to be a little bit more wide open of a West than many people are accustomed to.
I think that you are exactly right. It's an opportunity. Look, I can tell you this right now. We're not thinking about anything down the road and one loss and all that. We're a focused group. We're a present football team. The only thing that matters to us right now is Shepherd, and that's what we're thinking about. And that opportunity to play a top 5 program in the country on the road at their place. And we're excited about it. You had mentioned the experience that we gained in the IUP game last year, but when you look at the West, not only was it IUP in the top 25, Slippery Rock was in the top 15, Cal was in the top 10, and we're used to these type of football games in the PSAC. You had mentioned earlier in the program talking to Reed about how good of a league this is from the West and the East. I know there's a new guy in the conference, right? Some of the old guard are not happy that Shepherd's in the league. I think it gives our league legitimacy. Not that it didn't before, but when you add a quality program like Shepherd is, and you throw that into the conference, that makes us more of a national power. And, they're the benchmark, right? You had mentioned about the success that they've had, not just in the PSAC, but before they joined the league. And, we're really excited about this. I'll share a personal story with you that a lot of people don't know is that Coach McCook called me last year after we played Westchester week 2 and was very complimentary. And we just started a conversation, and we kind of talk pretty regularly now. That meant a lot to me as a first-time head football coach for him to call me and say, hey, I saw you guys battled. I know the result wasn't what you wanted at Westchester, but we noticed. He didn't have to do that. That to me speaks of the character of Coach and his program and why they are successful.
I want to circle back to something because people will just stop them from tweeting at me about that. I said that PSAC players are whatever. It's not that is a compliment to the player. It's not a knock on the program. It's a compliment to the player. But I do ask that to every kid. You're in kids' living rooms. I mean, you deal with kids that think that they're way too good for you, and you might stumble upon some kids that you might have to convince they're actually good enough to play at that level, to play at this level. What is it like though to sort of step away from Shepherd to recruit to somebody that would be uninformed? Because I think there are people that I know in this very community are very uninformed as to how good you actually have to be to play at that level, at this level. Is that a stumbling block? Is that a roadblock that you find a lot where, maybe people are just naive to the situation?
Honestly, I think that happens at all the levels, to be honest with you, Joe. I've been fortunate enough, with the exception of coaching FBS football. I spent a lot of my career coaching the FCS, Division III, Division II. I've kind of been everywhere. And whatever the league is, there's good football everywhere. There's a lot of really good Division III schools that would beat Division II schools. There's a lot of really good Division II schools that beat FCS schools. There's FCS programs that beat FBS programs. So if you're good, you're good. And from a recruiting standpoint, there are some people that maybe just aren't educated on the quality and the caliber of football, but we always try to do our best as a staff to articulate that. And getting back to that comment, until you come and see us play live and in color, then you're going to go, oh, okay, wait a minute. This isn't kind of what I'm used to. So from a recruiting standpoint, we're trying to do everything that we can to get as many of those recruits on campus so they get an opportunity to see how good our product really is.
All right, it's that time. Everybody's much anticipated. And when I say that, my friends, is sarcasm because Jake hates this question, but it just is what it is. 2 reasons why you win, 2 reasons why you lose.
Okay. I will start with the lose. The 2 reasons we lose, if we're behind the sticks in a lot of 3rd and longs and we give up big plays. I think those 2 things put us behind the 8 ball. 2 reasons on why we win, we're ahead of the sticks and we limit the big plays of their big play offense.
How important will it be for you as a staff? Will you remind everyone that we are not to get caught up in the moment? We can't allow the silliness of the moment to impede our judgment to walk away from the game plan? Or is it going to be, why not us? We're here. Let's give it a rip.
Yeah, well, I mentioned earlier about we're a present group. I want us in the moment. I want us to enjoy this opportunity. Again, this happens literally. This is once right now. We're not going to see the number 1 team. Well, we may be later down. I don't know. But, we're in the moment. Shepherd is our opportunity. We're going to live in the opportunity. I don't want us to almost downplay it. No, this is a tremendous opportunity for our football team. We're going to go out, and we're going to live it, and we're going to be present in the moment, and we're going to let it rip, and we'll see where it falls.
All right. That's it. Thanks to Pat and everybody that came out to the Edinboro Hotel. Don't forget yours truly. This is the first time that we are going to be having a commercial broadcast here at Edinboro University. WNBL, cool, 101.7. And, of course, we will have the audio And we will be synced up with the stream for home games. But unfortunately, Jake did not send Steve Murray a Christmas card, and 4 of the first 5 games are on the road. But that's either here or there. Next year, I guarantee you, he will send Commissioner Murray a Christmas card. Jake, I appreciate the time. We'll do it again this week. Do it again next week. Best of luck.
Hey, thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, that's it from the Edinboro Hotel. Thanks so much for taking some time with us. And, of course, we will talk to you 1 hour before kick on the pregame show for Fighting Scots football presented by ErieInjury.com.